The Jedi taught that the Force was light, that balance meant peace, and that serving the code was the same as serving good. But Ahsoka Tano discovered something the Council never wanted to admit. Their truth wasn't the only one. The Jedi said they sought harmony, yet they waged war. They claimed attachment, yet they feared loss. They preached compassion, yet they punished emotion. Ahsoka saw through it all. She wasn't disillusioned, she was awakened. When the Jedi turned their lightsabers on the innocent, when they let politics dictate morality, and when they exiled their own to protect their image, Ahsoka realized the Force didn't belong to them anymore. Maybe it never did. Her choice to walk away wasn't a betrayal. It was enlightenment. The Jedi wanted obedience, but Ahsoka chose awareness. She followed the Force without permission, and in doing so, became something the Council could never understand. A Jedi without chains. And the irony is, by leaving the Order, she became closer to the Force than any of them. She learned that truth doesn't come from rules, it comes from experience, from pain, from compassion, that doesn't need approval. Ahsoka Tano didn't destroy the Jedi legacy, she redefined it. She became the living proof that freedom and faith can coexist without hierarchy, without dogma, and without fear. In this video, we'll explore how Ahsoka saw past the Jedi's lies, why her departure exposed their hypocrisy, and how walking away made her the truest Jedi the galaxy ever had. Ahsoka Tano's story begins as the perfect Jedi success story. She's the bright, confident Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one himself, and she embodies everything the Jedi wanted to believe about their order. Hopeful, brave, obedient. But from her first mission in the Clone Wars, you can already see the cracks forming. She's a teenager thrown into war, expected to follow orders from men twice her age, and fight in a conflict she barely understands. And the Jedi tell her it's all in the name of peace. That's the first lie Ahsoka sees through. The idea that the Jedi are peacekeepers. Because peacekeepers don't command armies. They don't march across the galaxy under the banner of a republic. Ahsoka doesn't just fight separatists. She watches her friends die, sees civilians suffer, and realizes that the Jedi aren't ending wars, they're maintaining them. For all their talk about compassion, the Order turned itself into a war machine. Her time as Anakin's apprentice shows this contradiction more clearly than anything. Anakin teaches her to bend the rules, to question orders, to think independently. But those very traits are what the Jedi later punish her for. The same Order that tells her to follow the Force rejects her when she actually listens to it. It's hypocrisy wrapped in tradition. The bombing of the Jedi Temple is the breaking point. Ahsoka is framed, hunted by her own soldiers, and betrayed by the Council she trusted. When she's proven innocent, the Jedi apologize, but only because it's convenient. They offer her reinstatement like it's a favour, as if she should be grateful for their forgiveness. And that's when she finally sees it. The Jedi weren't protectors anymore. They were politicians in robes. The Council's arrogance wasn't just personal. It was systemic. They saw themselves as infallible, as the only ones who could interpret the will of the Force. Anyone who disagreed was labelled dangerous, emotional, or lost. Ahsoka realised that wasn't wisdom. It was control. And control is the opposite of enlightenment. Walking away from the Jedi wasn't rebellion. It was revelation. It was the moment Ahsoka stopped being a soldier and started being herself. She didn't leave because she hated the Order. She left because she saw what it had become. And that realization is what separates her from almost every Jedi who survived the Clone Wars. What's powerful about Ahsoka's choice is that she walks away at the height of the Jedi's power. She's not reacting to their destruction or Palpatine's rise. She's rejecting them while they're still standing tall. That takes courage, and more importantly, clarity. When you look at how Ahsoka evolved after leaving the Order, you start to see what real freedom in the Force actually looks like. She's still guided by morality and empathy, but she no longer hides behind doctrine. In Star Wars Rebels, she refuses to identify as a Jedi, and it's not because she's bitter, it's because she understands what that label has come to mean. "I am no Jedi," she says, and it's not defiance, it's liberation. That single line defines everything she's become. She doesn't need a temple, a title, or a council to validate her beliefs. She operates by instinct and conscience, not politics. While the Jedi debated the will of the Force, Ahsoka actually followed it. She became what the Order always claimed to be, a true servant of balance, not bureaucracy. Contrast her with Obi-Wan and Yoda, who after the Purge go into hiding and cling to the old ways. They wait for destiny to fix what they couldn't. Ahsoka doesn't wait, she acts. She fights the Empire from the shadows, risks her life to save others, and even confronts Darth Vader himself. Not because a prophecy told her to, but because she knows it's right. That's what separates faith from freedom. Her independence also exposes the truth about the Jedi's greatest flaw, their fear of attachment. Ahsoka's empathy is what saves her, not what destroys her. She loves Anakin, she loves her friends, and she still manages to stay true to herself. That's balance, not detachment. By feeling deeply but choosing wisely, Ahsoka becomes the living counter-argument to everything the Jedi preached about emotion leading to darkness. Even when she faces Vader, her response isn't anger, it's sorrow. She tells him, "I won't leave you, not this time." That's compassion, not control. The Jedi would have called it weakness, but in truth it's what makes her stronger than any of them. Her willingness to feel is what makes her human, and that's exactly what the Jedi forgot how to be. It's almost tragic that Ahsoka had to leave the Jedi to become one in spirit. Her actions reflect the original philosophy the Order abandoned centuries ago. She serves life, not law. She listens to the Force, not to fear. She's living proof that the Jedi Code failed not because it was too strict, but because it was misunderstood. And while the galaxy burned, Ahsoka did something the Jedi never could. She adapted. She worked with smugglers, rebels, and ex-clones. She learned to trust people who didn't fit into the Jedi's narrow worldview, and in doing so, she built bridges where the Jedi built walls. Ahsoka's story doesn't end with rebellion, it ends with wisdom. Because by the time we see her in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, she's not fighting for the Jedi's return. She's fighting for balance itself. She's calm, centered, and deliberate. She doesn't seek revenge, doesn't crave control, and doesn't preach. She just acts when the Force calls her. That quiet strength is something no council ever taught her. It's something she learned by surviving truth. In Ahsoka, she mentors Sabine, and you can see how her philosophy has matured. She doesn't lecture about attachment or fear. She teaches patience and understanding. She knows what it means to lose, to doubt, and to still move forward. In that way, she becomes the first Jedi-like figure who leads through empathy instead of authority. And that's the irony. By rejecting the Jedi, she became the one who truly embodied them. Yoda spent centuries trying to define the will of the Force, but Ahsoka just listened to it. She doesn't fight to preserve the Order. She fights to preserve life. That's what the Jedi were always meant to do, before they turned enlightenment into hierarchy. When she faces Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, it's not a duel of ideology. It's a conversation of belief. Ahsoka doesn't treat them like enemies, she treats them like possibilities. That's growth, and it shows how her understanding of the Force transcends the binary thinking that doomed the old Order. Light and dark, Jedi and Sith. It's all perspective. Ahsoka found peace not in picking a side, but in realising both were incomplete without balance. And maybe that's the lesson George Lucas wanted us to learn all along. That wisdom isn't obedience, and peace isn't absence of conflict. It's awareness. Ahsoka embodies that awareness better than anyone in Star Wars. She sees the good in Anakin, the tragedy in the Jedi, and the humanity in everyone she meets. That's what makes her more than a survivor. She's a teacher of truth. Her independence also redefines what the word Jedi even means. To her, being Jedi isn't about robes or ranks. It's about clarity, service, and humility. She carries a white lightsaber, symbolizing neutrality, purity, and renewal. It's the visual representation of her philosophy. Balance without bias. If the galaxy ever rebuilds a new Jedi Order, it shouldn't look like the one that fell. It should look like Ahsoka. Flexible, emotional, honest, and unafraid to question itself. Because the Force doesn't belong to one institution, it belongs to everyone willing to listen. Ahsoka Tano didn't destroy the Jedi legacy, She saved it by breaking away from it. She saw past their lies, forgave their blindness, and carried forward only the truth worth keeping. And that's what makes her one of the most important characters in Star Wars. Not because she fought like a Jedi, but because she learned how to live like one.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.